This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Americans gave about $290 billion to charity last year. That was $10 billion more than the amount of charitable giving in 2009. The estimates are from the Giving USA Foundation and its research partner, the Center on Philanthropy at Indiana University. Charities are nonprofit organizations that raise money to provide social services or other programs. Giving USA has been reporting on charitable donations since 1956. The group estimates that about 75 million households gave to at least one charitable organization in the United States last year. A household is one or more people living in a home. The largest share of charitable giving goes to religious groups. Giving USA says they received 35% of all donations in 2010. Some people give a percentage of their pay to religious organizations. Schools and other education-related organizations were second on the list. They received an estimated 14% of all charitable giving last year. The Federal Tax Agency, the Internal Revenue Service, recognizes donations to official charities. Those who give to charity may be able to get tax breaks and reduce the amount of taxes they owe. People who give to charity may want to know how their donations are being spent. Organizations like Charity Navigator and the American Institute of Philanthropy look at how charities spend the money they receive. Their reports and ratings offer a measure of how effectively the charities use their money. For example, donors can learn how much a group spends on services compared to how much it spends on itself in administrative costs. Charity Navigator recently asked donors and charities to answer questions about year-end giving trends this year. More than 500 donors and 100 charities completed the questionnaire. On average, these charities said they received 41% of all their donations in the last few weeks of the year. Charity Navigator also asked donors about the kinds of charities they would likely support this holiday season. Human Services rated at the top of the list. Arts, Culture, and Humanities rated at the bottom. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Read, listen, and learn with our programs and English teaching activities at voaspecialenglish.com and on the VOA Learning English page on Facebook. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Pressure for financial reform has been building in Europe. In June, the financial services company Moody's Investors Service reduced Spain's credit rating. The rating was cut from A3 to Baa3. That means that Moody's officials believe the credit risk of Spanish debt has moved from very low to moderate. The company said it acted because Spain is borrowing about $125 billion in rescue loans for its banks. Debt markets punished Spain by pushing up the interest rate on its long-term debt to about 6.8%. That increases Spain's borrowing costs and hurts its already troubled economy. Spain was not the only country to get downgraded by Moody's. Cyprus got the same treatment. Recently, American Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington. He said the increase in borrowing costs for European countries like Spain means European officials must move quickly to avoid growing costs. In his words, if you wait to move in these things and you let the market get ahead of you, then you increase the costs of the solution and you make it harder to get there. Once you decide, he said, there is no argument for doing it slowly. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has been pushing for economic reform in the 17 countries using the euro. But German Chancellor Angela Merkel has argued that her country is unwilling to put money at risk unless banking reform is enacted throughout the Eurozone. She warned that Germany's economic power was not unlimited. In early June, the European Commission proposed steps toward a common banking policy. The proposals include empowering nations to intervene when their banks are in trouble. But proposed changes may also bar support for failing banks. Some European leaders are pressing for an expanded European bailout fund. Germany has resisted providing new financial resources. But details of any deal with big European economies have yet to be decided. Europe's financial crisis is likely to be a major international issue in the weeks to come. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read, listen, and learn English with more stories about economics and other subjects at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Teachers and parents usually call attention to the pictures when they read storybooks to preschool children. But a new study suggests that calling attention to the words and letters on the page may lead to better readers. The 2-year study compared children who were read to this way in class with children who were not. Those whose teachers most often discussed the print showed clearly higher skills in reading, spelling, and understanding. These results were found 1 year and even 2 years later. Shane Piasta, an assistant professor of teaching and learning at Ohio State University, was an author of the study. She says most preschool teachers would find this method manageable and would need only a small change in the way they teach. They already read storybooks in class. The only difference would be increased attention to the printed text. Ms. Piasta says if you get children to pay attention to letters and words, it makes sense that they will do better at word recognition and spelling. But she says research suggests that very few parents and teachers do this in a systematic way. The report appears in the journal Child Development. More than 300 children aged 4 and 5 were observed in classrooms in Ohio and Virginia. The children came from poor families and were below average in their language skills. This put them at risk for reading problems later. For 30 weeks, the children took part in a program called Project STAR, for Sit Together and Read. The project is based at Ohio State. It tests the short-term and long-term results of reading regularly to preschool children in their classrooms. Laura Justice at Ohio State says researchers think they understand how information about print is transmitted from the adult to the child. This knowledge can be gained by having focused discussions when reading a book out loud. Professor Justice says this intervention can help adults center in on the things that children need and want to learn. There are different ways that adults can talk to children about print. They can point to a letter and discuss it, and even trace the shape with a finger. They can point out a word. This is dog. They can discuss the meaning of the print or how the words tell the story. And they can talk about the organization of the print. For instance, showing how words are written left to right in English. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. You can read and listen to our programs at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Today, retirement can mean different things. For many Americans, it means the end of the money-earning part of their life and the beginning of a period of enjoyment. But retirement calls for planning and savings. In many countries, employers may offer some kind of retirement savings plan. The plan could be linked to the company's stock or to a managed investment service. Almost any financial planner will say workers should use these plans to save money easily, often directly from their wages. But an employer plan should not be your only way to save for retirement. Pete DeRuta heads his own financial planning company and gives retirement advice on radio shows and television. He tells people to save whenever possible. But he says as retirement nears, you must take fewer financial risks. There's 3 stages of life there when we look at it. There's the part where you're earning money. And when you're earning money, if you have a salary, it makes it easier to take risk because you know that if you lose the money, you can go back and earn some more. By risks, Pete DeRuta means investing in stocks and other financial instruments that can lose value quickly. He says people should move money away from riskier investments as they age, even if there is a possibility of a higher rate of return. Instead, investors nearing retirement should seek more secure investments for their savings. But then we get to the transition phase, when we're within 5 years or so of retirement. I call it the financial red zone, because now is the time when you need to protect what you have. You need to start transitioning away from the risk of Wall Street and into safe places that guarantee lifetime income. Pete DeRuta has a simple way of deciding how much of your retirement savings should be at risk. He says, take your age and put a percentage after it. That is the percentage of your retirement savings that should be fully protected from losing value. So, for a 65-year-old, 65% of the money must be in a place that can't lose it. The reason why is when you're in retirement, it's impossible to get the money back that you lost because you don't have a salary coming in. One recent survey by the Charles Schwab Company found that 44% of baby boomers feel secure in their readiness for retirement. Baby boomers are the generation of Americans born after World War II. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Today, retirement can mean different things. For many Americans, it means the end of the money-earning part of their life and the beginning of a period of enjoyment. But retirement calls for planning and savings. In many countries, employers may offer some kind of retirement savings plan. The plan could be linked to the company's stock or to a managed investment service. Almost any financial planner will say workers should use these plans to save money easily, often directly from their wages. But an employer plan should not be your only way to save for retirement. Pete DeRuta heads his own financial planning company and gives retirement advice on radio shows and television. He tells people to save whenever possible. But he says as retirement nears, you must take fewer financial risks. There's 3 stages of life there when we look at it. There's the part where you're earning money. And when you're earning money, if you have a salary, it makes it easier to take risk because you know that if you lose the money, you can go back and earn some more. By risks, Pete DeRuta means investing in stocks and other financial instruments that can lose value quickly. He says people should move money away from riskier investments as they age, even if there is a possibility of a higher rate of return. Instead, investors nearing retirement should seek more secure investments for their savings. But then we get to the transition phase, when we're within 5 years or so of retirement. I call it the financial red zone, because now is the time when you need to protect what you have. You need to start transitioning away from the risk of Wall Street and into safe places that guarantee lifetime income. Pete DeRuta has a simple way of deciding how much of your retirement savings should be at risk. He says, take your age and put a percentage after it. That is the percentage of your retirement savings that should be fully protected from losing value. So, for a 65-year-old, 65% of the money must be in a place that can't lose it. The reason why is when you're in retirement, it's impossible to get the money back that you lost because you don't have a salary coming in. One recent survey by the Charles Schwab Company found that 44% of baby boomers feel secure in their readiness for retirement. Baby boomers are the generation of Americans born after World War II. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Call it medicine on a microchip. Researchers in the United States have developed the first wirelessly controlled device that can supply a drug directly into the body. A small chip is implanted under the skin. It contains the medicine, which it releases at preset times. The developers say the device could improve the lives of millions of people who take medicine for long-term illnesses. A company called Microchips began developing the device about 15 years ago. In February, the company released the results of its first successful tests in humans. The tests took place in Denmark with 7 women with osteoporosis. Osteoporosis causes bones to become weak and break easily. The disorder is common among older people, especially women. Many patients have to give themselves daily injections of medicine. One type of treatment requires injections for 2 years. Robert Farah is the president of Microchips. He says many patients stop taking the medicine because of the pain and stress of the injections. As a result, only 25% of the patients will go through the entire 24 months of treatment. The microchip is a few centimeters long. It has small sections that each hold a single dose of medicine. Mr. Farah says the device has to be programmed with the times to release the drug. For osteoporosis, the physician will program the device, and the device has the ability to release a dose at a given time, every single day. For other diseases where the physician may want to alter the dosing schedule, they will have the ability to wirelessly reprogram that dosing schedule. He says doctors will be able to reprogram the device from a computer or even a cell phone. The 7 women in the study were ages 65 to 70. The researchers say the implants were just as effective as daily injections. And they say the dosage amounts were more exact than patients often give themselves. The microchips in the study held only 20 doses of medicine. Mr. Farah says it could take 4 years to design and test a version with the ability to hold a year's worth of medicine. He says the microchip may one day free patients from having to remember to take their medicine or give themselves injections. It may also be useful in treating other chronic diseases, including heart disease and multiple sclerosis. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. A talking kitchen teaches students how to cook French and speak French. Researchers at the Newcastle University in Britain have developed the French Digital Kitchen. Professors Paul Seedhouse and Patrick Oliver led the project. Professor Seedhouse says it works like a satellite navigation system in a car. The sat-nav speaks to you, and it tells you, for example, to turn left. And if you turn left, then it continues with the program. If, for example, you turn right, then it's a mistake. So it loops back and gives you further instructions. The kitchen equipment and tools use motion sensor technology, similar to the Nintendo Wii game system. The sensors help a computer guide the students through instructions in French. The system can tell whether you've done what you were asked to do or not. So let's say, for example, the system tells you to take some butter and cut it with a knife. The sensor in the knife not only knows that the knife is moving, but it also knows what motion the knife is making. Students can ask the computer to repeat the instructions or translate them into English. There are vocabulary lessons before and after the cooking. Professor Seedhouse became interested in the idea after he visited a talking kitchen designed for a different purpose. It was actually for communicating with people who suffer from dementia. It can tell them, for example, that they've left the oven on. He says the French digital kitchen turns the process of learning language into a real-life experience. But the idea, known as task-based language learning, required a few changes as the researchers were designing the system. For example, if they had a sink full of water, as soon as people finished cooking with an instrument, they would throw it into the water. And for us, that's deadly, because the digital sensors were immediately ruined. The system could be available for sale by the end of 2012. Adding the technology to a new kitchen could add an estimated 10 to 20% to the building costs. The system could also be added to an existing kitchen. The researchers are also developing portable versions, and the European Union has given them money to begin programs in 6 other languages, including English, Italian, and Spanish. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. You can find links to videos about the Talking Kitchen at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Organic farming avoids the use of chemical pesticides and man-made fertilizers. Supporters say organic farming is better for the environment than other methods. But studies have shown that organic farming often produces less food per hectare. That lower yield means feeding the world organically would require more land. But good farmland is limited, and scientists say deforestation from the clearing of land for agriculture is already a problem for climate change. In a new study, researchers wanted to measure the difference between conventional and organic yields. So they combined the results of 66 earlier studies. They found that some organic farms can yield almost as much as conventional farms, but most cannot. The findings were reported in the journal Nature. The study's lead author was Verena Seifert of McGill University in Canada. She says conventional farms usually have higher yields than organic ones. But some activities, environmental conditions, and even crops can narrow the differences. On average, organic farms produced 25% less compared to conventional farms. But yields of organic fruits and other perennial crops nearly equaled the yields from conventional ones. So did the yields of legumes such as soybeans. Legumes produce some of their own nitrogen fertilizer. However, organic vegetables and cereal crops had a lot lower yields compared to conventionally grown crops. Ms. Seifert says the soil on organic farms holds water better, and that can reduce the yield difference. Also, organic farmers can improve their yields by making sure crops get enough fertilizer. But increasing the nitrogen is harder to do organically using just animal waste and crop rotations. Organic farmers rotate food crops with plants that fertilize the soil. But while these cover or fertilizer crops are growing, food crops have to be grown on other land. And if farmers use manure, they have to feed the animals that produce it. And that requires grazing land or cropland. The United Nations says world demand for food will grow 70% by the middle of the century. John Reganold is a scientist at Washington State University. He says no one should dismiss organic agriculture as part of the solution. He says farming is increasingly a mix of organic and conventional methods. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. The best example of something is often called the gold standard. It sets the standard against which other things are measured. In economics, the term describes how major trading nations once used gold to set currency values and exchange rates. Many nations continued to use the gold standard until the last century. In the United States, people could exchange paper money for gold from the 1870s until 1933. Then President Richard Nixon finally disconnected the dollar from the value of gold in 1971. From time to time, some politicians call for a return to the gold standard. But in 1978, the International Monetary Fund ended an official gold price. The IMF also ended the required use of gold in transactions with its member countries. Since that time, gold prices have grown. But the growth was uneven. Prices, uncorrected for inflation, continue near record highs. Gold is trading above $1,600 an ounce. An ounce is about 28 grams. But people keep buying. Some people are called gold bugs. These are investors who say people should buy gold to protect against inflation. People have valued gold for thousands of years. The soft, dense metal polishes to a bright yellow shine and resists most chemical reactions. It makes a good material for money, political power, and more recently, electrical power. If you own a device like a mobile phone or a computer, you might own a little gold in the wiring. The gold standard was the subject of one of the best-known speeches in American political history. It took place at the 1896 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. William Jennings Bryan wanted the country to use both gold and silver as money. The idea was to devalue the dollar and make it easier for farmers to pay their debts. Bryan made this famous statement: You shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. The speech made William Jennings Bryan famous. He was a presidential candidate 3 times, but he never won. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. For more news and information for people learning English, go to voaspecialenglish.com. You can find transcripts, MP3s, podcasts, and activities. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Do people get happier with age? If you said yes, then you were right. A recent study found that people generally become happier and worry less after the age of 50. A team at Stony Brook University in New York asked people between the ages of 18 and 85 about their happiness. The researchers found that levels of stress were highest in adults between the ages of 22 and 25. Stress levels dropped sharply after people reached their 50s. Happiness was highest among the youngest adults and those in their early 70s. But those least likely to report feeling negative emotions were the oldest ones. The study also found that men and women have similar emotional patterns as they grow older. But women of all ages reported more sadness, stress, and worry than men. The researchers also considered possible influences, like having young children, being unemployed, or being single. But they found that these situations did not affect the levels of happiness and well-being related to age. So why would happiness increase with age? One theory is that as people get older, they become more thankful for what they have and have better control of their emotions. They also spend less time thinking about bad experiences. Happiness is not the only thing that seems to improve with age. Another study found that people in their 80s reported the fewest problems with their sleep. Researchers had expected to confirm the popular belief that sleep problems are connected to aging. The survey found an increase in sleep problems during middle age, especially in women. But overall, people reported that they felt their sleep quality improved with age. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. How much does a college education cost? In the United States, the College Board releases yearly reports on prices at colleges and universities. The group bases its findings on published tuition and fees, meaning the prices officially listed by the school. Students might pay less, for instance, if they receive scholarships. Nationally, tuition and fees at public four-year colleges and universities rose more than 8% during the academic year that just ended. The increase was 7% if you exclude California. California has about 10% of the nation's full-time students in public four-year colleges. In-state tuition and fees averaged more than $8,000 nationally, The average total charge, which includes housing and meals, was $17,000. The total charge for students from out of state was $30,000. Tuition and fees increased 4.5% at private nonprofit four-year schools. That was still higher than the inflation rate. The average was $28,500. For-profit schools charged an estimated $14,000 in tuition and fees. That was up 3.2% from the year before. One way for parents in the United States to start saving for college when their child is still very young is called a 529 plan. The plans are named for the part of the federal tax law that created them in 1996. All 50 states and the District of Columbia offer them. Private investment companies operate most of these plans, and each state has its own rules. Many plans are open to families from other states. 529 plans offer different investment choices. Families must decide how aggressively they want to put money into stocks, bonds, or other investments that can rise or fall in value. There are limits on how much families can put into 529 plans. Another choice is called a prepaid tuition plan. Parents can pay for an education at a public college or university in their state while their child is still growing up. But what if the child decides to go to school out of state, or not at all? The money can go to educate another family member, or the parents can withdraw it and pay taxes on the gains. There are other ways to save for college while also saving on taxes. One way is to put money for a child into what is called a custodial account until the child becomes an adult. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.